Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. So listen, I like to just get straight into it. Why don't we talk about failure? So what happens if your manifestation fails? What happens if that failure brings on more doubt? What if that failure brings on more anxiety? What if that failure brings on a whole connection of other manifestations that seem to just fail and fail and fail? So first and foremost, you don't have to respond with doubt. You don't have to respond with fear. You don't have to respond with anxiety. Do you hear what I'm getting at? So what happens is we've been trained and conditioned to think and respond in a certain way. So especially in a Western society like America, where we really fetishize or worship success to the point of, I think, our detriment. I mean, we're talking about mental health and the mental health crisis right now, right? People experiencing all kinds of different mental health phenomenon, anything from OCD to chronic fear to ADHD and so on and so forth. Whatever it is, we're in a time where we're actually questioning, is that really a good method? Is that a good way to go about living this thing called life? And of course, we all fundamentally know that the answer is no, right? But what do we do with all of the conditioning and the baggage and, right? So where we've been trained and conditioned to think, well, if I fail, then something must be wrong. But not just that, we go further. We say, well, something must be wrong with me and I must be doing something that is completely incorrect. And then what happens is then you spiral. So what do we do with failure? Now, if you followed me for more than 5 minutes, you'll learn that I'm very big on a behavioral science technique called reframing. So reframing, and actually this is basically how Neville defines love, and also how the Greek notion of love, which is where Neville would have been inspired by a lot of his idea of behind this notion of love, is actually really, really informed by. So let's break that down because we're going to talk about failure. But at the same time, we're going to also talk about it backwards. We're going to talk about reframing first. So reframing is the ability to look at something and say, okay, this is what it is, but I can see something else here that other people can't see. Or I can see something here that's more positive, more beneficial, something that I can actually apply to my life. So again, what you can do is, for example, let's say you're a runner and you are getting ready to compete and you end up getting injured like a week before. Well, of course, that's going to be frustrating. But then you realize, okay, well, I'm going to need more time to heal up and I'm not going to be able to compete. So then you get bummed and so on and so forth. And you eat like 30 pounds of spaghetti. Maybe not, but don't eat like 30 pounds, maybe like 24. But I mean, like basically what you end up doing is you either spiral or here's the second option. This is the option I want to encourage you to retrain your brain to think of when you end up having a so-called failure happen, okay? Is that what is this teaching me? One, what am I learning about myself? What are the body of beliefs that I've consented to, that's Neville's phrasing, that have brought this on? So one, it's an opportunity to learn more about myself. Two, just that process alone will make you a more powerful manifester. So when you end up with failure, when you end up with doubt, when you end up with fear or anxiety, use this technique. Do not automatically just rely upon old ways of thinking. That's the old man, the old person, right? So what you want to begin doing is looking at reframing as your own internal superpower, okay? You are looking at this as an opportunity. So back to the runner, okay? They're injured, they can't compete this year. What does that mean? Well, that means they're going to come back stronger next year, right? So rather than, oh my gosh, I can't do this, my dreams are shattered, you know, I have to get a job at McDonald's because I didn't win the $5.2 million at running, which I don't know any race that would pay you that much. But anyhow, so what it is you're learning to look at this. And so Neville calls that love, right? So he says, listen, whenever something happens along the way, whether it's a doubt, whether it's a fear and it comes on and you have no idea where it came from, he says, love it. Love your body of beliefs. He talks about this as the dweller within, right? Now, in some psychological circles, if you adopt the work of, let's say, Carl Jung, right? And he talks about how we all have a shadow. I actually personally disagree with that. I also personally disagree about how sin is part of our makeup as humans. I am more of the mindset that all humans everywhere are nothing more than jars of clay. That's actually a phrase that's taken from the Bible. Or the way that I like to say it is that we are containers for culture. Culture just means how your parents taught you, how the world is, the laws, the way things that we think are normal, and we accept them as normal. So then we live by them, we breathe them, we become part of them, and they become part of us. We shape them, they shape us, and so on and so forth. And so what we have to realize is that as these like jars of clay, that means we get to put stuff in. We get to also take stuff out. That's what a jar of clay is. It's a storage vessel. We are vessels, right? And so by changing state, we can actually get rid of those. So changing state is also a form of reframing. It's saying, I am no longer that person with that perspective. I'm always a successful person. So what happens if you're in the state of being a successful person and something happens? That's why you reframe. That's why as a successful person, you wouldn't see that as doubt. You wouldn't see it as failure. You would see it as an opportunity to grow better as a manifester. Do you hear the difference? So again, this is all about perspective. It's perspective and meaning and what I love to call correlation. And that's another idea that we're going to talk about later on in another YouTube. But I don't want to actually have this to be too long. So I just wanted to jump on here and talk about this because again, I think that to come at this from the perspective of I've got to love my body of beliefs, which is what Neville challenges us to do, right? When he has that vision. And love is the ultimate power because you get to reframe it. Now, keep in mind, I'm also a very big endorser of the mystical side of experiencing manifestation. So when I say that you're reframing it, this is not positive psychology. This is not law of attraction, okay? I am not saying that you need to be militantly positive. That is actually ignoring things. Okay, Neville says do not suppress. Why? Because it is the seedbed for disease. So what do you do? What do you do with doubt? What do you do if you can't seem to get over it? You actually love it. Okay, you look for whatever light is in the midst of that dark. It doesn't matter how small that beam of light is, you go searching. And it doesn't matter if it takes you 5 minutes or it takes you 20 years. You militantly romanticize this process of discovering your power, but from within to without, okay? And that's ultimately your superpower, is reframing, okay? So I would encourage you to try this, and any technique that I give you on this channel or in my coaching program is not something that will take 5 minutes and you'll get it, okay? It does take time. And so I see a lot of people that are coming at manifestation, especially Neville's work, that are very urgent about things, okay? And yes, can you manifest on a pinch? Yes, can you manifest on a timeline? Can you manifest on a certain day? Yes, of course. And I've done that. But what you have to realize is that things take time. And so if you've accepted a body of beliefs for 20 years, you probably, and I'm not saying you can't, you probably won't overcome that overnight, okay? And that's okay. This is what I'm trying to get people to say. Embrace the phrase okay. It's okay to have doubt. It's okay to actually, but you don't want to stay in it. Actually actively get yourself out of it by reframing it. That's how you participate. That's how you make yourself better. That's how you make yourself a powerful creator. Thank you for listening today. And just know that I truly believe that you do deserve your desire. Thank you all. Much love.